Welcome to Paint to Life, the one-of-a-kind YouTube channel with original storytelling, creature lore, and miniature painting. It's Halloween weekend, and thus tonight, you are going to see this Nolzel's Dire Troll get customized while I tell you the horrific story of the Plante family of West Virginia circa 1984 that inspired it. A medical miracle or a monster? You decide. Now, admittedly, this episode of Paint to Life is a little more intense than usual, so if you're a sensitive lot, you might want to skip it. Otherwise, I'm GM Atank. Let's get painting. In the mountains of central West Virginia, there's a small little isolated community with just over 200 people where historic traditions are kept alive. Back in 1984, there were over 500 people there. One of them was the village doctor, Alexis Pacheco. In her small office on Main Street, she was responsible for stitches, broken bones, and delivering all of the babies as well. It was spring of that year when Alexis first met Lilith Plante. Like many of the residents, the Plantes had been one of the founding families of Harrisburg. Lilith was a tall blonde woman in her late 40s who drove down the old mountain pass into town for fertility assistance. She arrived alone. Fertility treatments were still being developed at the time, as assisted human reproduction was a science in its infancy. The first in vitro fertilization with the conception of a child had just happened 6 years prior in 1978, and that surely wasn't offered in Harrisburg. Standard practice for an older woman looking to conceive, Dr. Pacheco asked her about the family history of Lilith and her husband. Were there any miscarriages? Are there any history of multiple simultaneous births, twins, both fraternal and identical? Lilith answered these questions tensely. It was obvious she was uncomfortable with the doctor and the medical profession in general. But in 1984, medical advancements were being made every day that were changing the world. And they were now prenatal drugs that could be prescribed to help someone like Lilith have a baby. And they worked. Just a month later, and Lilith returned to discover she was pregnant. Dr. Alexis Pacheco's notes would later reveal just how amazed and excited she was for the middle-aged couple, excitement shared by Lilith herself. But she also wrote that she found it odd that after 3 appointments she had still not met the husband, and that Lilith was attending all of these initial appointments by herself. 6 weeks into her pregnancy, Lilith was sent for an ultrasound appointment 20 miles away in the medical professional building in Pleasant Valley, and when the results came in, they were shocked. There were 5 concurrent embryos. The risk of multiples were higher with these prenatal drugs, but only with certain family history. And Dr. Pacheco was not thrilled. She must have missed something during their original consult, perhaps on the father's side of things. To have a baby at Lilith's age was already slightly risky, let alone 2 or 5. It was also now that Dr. Pacheco took Lilith off the prenatal drugs, but during the subsequent investigation, it is believed that not only did she not stop taking the prenatal medication, she actually took even more, believing they were healthy for her babies. Lilith arrived for her checkup appointment, alone again, and was clearly struggling. Other patients at the doctor's office reported that day they witnessed her getting out of the truck, and she was already so large that she was having difficulties, so they went and got a wheelchair to bring her in. Alexis Pacheco, the doctor, would also confide in her colleague with some of her concerns. Had this woman been trying to get pregnant in secret? Was she trying to keep this from someone? Obviously that would be impossible, so who and where was the father? Lilith would explain it away that he was away on a business trip in Charleston. When Lilith arrived in Harrisburg next, it was an event. Not only did she come alone, she walked down the old mountain path. Her pregnant belly was so big that she didn't even get behind the wheel of her truck, let alone drive, so she made the trek on foot. People took pictures and gawked at the sight. Dr. Pacheco was infuriated by that physicality despite her condition. Lilith promised her that she had a ride home and excused her husband that he had had a headache. And after their checkup, they booked another appointment for 2 weeks down the road to discuss delivery options and risks, and Lilith promised to not again walk alone. Dr. Alexis's appointment log shows Lilith never made it to the subsequent appointment. She followed up with the motherhood support group and found out that Lilith had been lying about attending, as they had no idea who she was. Additionally, when she tried to call her house, the number she had was not in service.
Sorry,
out of an abundance of concern and caution, she called the Harrisburg County Sheriff Rory Ray, and he agreed to drive her up to the Plante residence. Up the mountain pass they drove, and then along the unfinished road, flanked on both sides by wild, thick, overgrown trees. Sheriff dispatcher notes said that they would have arrived just after lunch to the 100-year-old wooden 2-story house in serious need of maintenance, but not unlike many in the county. No one knows exactly what happened next. Court evidence was entirely circumstantial, and dead bodies tell no tales. But here's what I believe happened on that mountain. They parked their 1979 Ford Bronco outside and thoughtfully approached the front door. The door was unlocked, as there was no sign of forced entry, nor would Sheriff Rory had broken in without a warrant or signs of distress. Sheriff Rory Ray called out for Lilith or her husband, and there was no response. The inside of the house was even more run down than it looked from the outside. He sent Dr. Pacheco upstairs to check the bedrooms while he looked around on the main floor. Rory found himself in the kitchen with dirty dishes thrown about and filth on the floor. 4 lit cigarettes were left burning in one ashtray on the kitchen table. Upstairs, Alexis called out for Lilith, but heard no response. She found her way into a master bedroom full of old family pictures on the walls that had an unmade bed with fluid on the mattress and floor leading out of the room. Back in the kitchen, the sheriff hollered out again, when just then he sensed something very large approaching from behind. Before he could turn around, something grabbed him. It spun his head around with ease, breaking his neck, killing him instantly. The doctor upstairs was investigating the fluid. It appeared to be amniotic fluid when she heard a muffled cry and multiple babies crying out from the distance. She rushed to the source of the noises and found a bathroom at the end of the hall. Once inside, she saw Lilith Plante sobbing in a disgusting bathtub half full of water and blood, holding a swaddled newborn baby in her hands. She had delivered it herself without any medical aid, but something was wrong. The baby she held in her hand, her baby, turned and looked at the doctor, and then turned and looked at her again. Alexis Pacheco had never seen anything like this in her entire life. The baby, which appeared to be some kind of conjoined twins, moving, perfectly healthy, with 3 heads, 4 arms, and some teeth in its mouth already. Lilith took notice, looked up and smiled. "Doctor, you made it. It's our miracle baby." Almost catatonic with shock at what she was witnessing, Alexis didn't even hear the lumbering giant approach her from behind. "And look, baby, here comes Daddy." In early November 1984, the FBI found the body of Sheriff Rory Ray and his truck, but no signs of Dr. Pacheco or any of the Plante family members was ever found. Although, that's a lot of land to search, and the mountains are very large, forest deep. There's only so much and so long you can search. So who can really say the whereabouts of Lilith, her baby, Dr. Pacheco, and Daddy? Happy Halloween. All right, here's Daddy for the shelf. Thank you so very much for watching my channel. If you want to watch the video on how that was made and the tutorial behind it, you can catch that on Tuesday on the Paint to Life YouTube channel. Help support your friendly local gaming store. Head on down, pick up some miniature paints and some miniatures to give miniature painting a try. You might love it. Tell them GM Atank sent you. And of course, like always, share, like, comment, do what you do to help the channel grow. I much appreciate it. So, That's all I have for you tonight. We'll catch you next time. I'm GM Atank. Wash your hands, people. Changing established formats is tough. The one-of-a-kind YouTube channel where I mix my YouTube channel with the Blix Creative Unique Original. The YouTube... really rely on the script this time. Nah, fuck it.